Okay, children, today we're going to be working on our study guide. You should be able to do 1 through 10 without me. You should be able to do those on your own. That's just applying the properties that we know. Like, for instance, number 1 says that if AB equals 11 and AB plus BC equals AC, then 11 plus BC equals AC. What did they do? Substitution. So you should be able to do all of those without me. Here they're saying to use subtraction, so you would subtract. Here they're saying to use substitution, so you would substitute. Here they're saying to use transitive, so use transitive. Now let's look at our proofs. For number 11, it says fill in the reasons in the proof. It starts by giving us this. Then they got rid of parentheses, so obviously that's the distributive property. Next, they subtracted 2x from both sides. That's how we went from here to here. Then they subtracted 16. And finally, they divided by 2. Dun, 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 dun. We're done with that proof. All right, those are algebraic proofs. You can do those fairly easily. Now let's look at number 12. This is where we have a segment. Now, what do we always start with? We start with the given. So our given is GM equals 28. That's this whole thing right here. GE is 4x plus 9. And EM is 3x minus 2. I'll give you a minute to write that down. Now, we know that the whole thing is 28, so we would have to add up these parts to get 28. So you would add up GE plus EM. So we're going to say GE plus EM equals GM. And that is the segment addition postulate. Now, what do you think they did from here to here? Well, tater tots, it looks like they plugged everything in. So that's called substitution. They give us that the next step is combined, so we're going to combine our like terms. 4x plus 3x gives us 7x. 9 minus 2 gives us plus 7 equals 28. From here, we're just solving an equation. So what would we do? We would subtract 7, and we would get 7x equals 21. And that's subtraction. And finally, we divide and get 3. That's what they wanted us to prove. We proved it. Q, E, D, because we fancy. Now, let's look at the back where we have to fill in the proofs. We have to create our own proof. Now, it talks about angles on this. It starts by saying that the measure of angle ABC, which is this guy right here, is 4x minus 2, and this one is 6x plus 3. Then the entire thing is 131 degrees. So what we're going to do is we're going to create our 2-column proof. Statements. Reasons. And I don't know what this whole is. We're going to start with our given. So they start by saying that the measure of angle ABC is 4x minus 2. The measure of angle CBD is 6x plus 3. And the measure of angle ABD equals 131. Given. Now, obviously, we would add up these two angles right here. We would add up this angle and then this angle over here to get the giant angle. When you add those together, that gives you the measure of angle ABC plus the measure of angle CBD equals the measure of angle ABD, which is the angle addition postulate. Now, do we know anything about those angles? We do. it tells us that the measure of angle ABC is 4x minus 2. The measure of angle CBD is 6x plus 3, and the whole thing is 131. So what would we do with that fantastic information? We would plug it in. We would say 4x minus 2 plus 6x plus 3 equals 131. That is substitution. Then we're just solving an equation. We're combining like terms. We have 4x plus 6x gives us 10. Ooh, that should be a 4. Gives us 10x plus 1 equals 131. Then we subtract. I'm going to run out of room. And then the last thing I do is divide, and I get 13. Now, is that what they wanted me to prove? Yes. Boom, I'm done. I write QED. I'll give you a moment to write that down and process. Remember, if you need to pause the video because you're confused, pause the video. Look at what we did. Think about what it's asking us. We're just adding things together. Now, in our next lovely example, it tells us a very important thing from the beginning, that B is the midpoint. And what does it mean if it's the midpoint? It means that AB is congruent to BC. So that means that these two things are the same. Now, let's build our proof. Statements and reasons. Our first statement is always our given. So we start with B is midpoint. AB is equal to 2 times x minus 15, and BC is equal to 6x minus 46. Bum, bum, bum. Look at us go. Now, since it's the midpoint, and we put these tick marks right here that says that they're congruent, what can we do with that? We can set them equal to each other. Great job. That means we can say AB is equal to BC, and that's the definition of a midpoint. Now, do we know anything about AB and BC? Yes, we do. We know that AB is 2x minus 15. Well, 2 times the quantity of x minus 15. And BC is 6x minus 46. And that's substitution. Then I'm going to distribute, and I get 2x minus 30 equals 6x minus 46. I'm going to bring the rest of my proof over here. Then I would subtract 6x from 2x, and I would get negative 4x subtraction. Now, make sure you're watching your signs, because that's a negative 4x and a negative 46. We're trying to get a positive 4, so we're hoping that it works out in the end. If we add 30 to both sides, we get negative 16. And the final thing we do is we divide by a negative 4, and a negative divided by a negative is a positive. And that gave us positive 4. That's what we were trying to prove. Boom, we're done. We're going to write QED. Now, the very last proof that we're going to do is one where it asks us to find the measure of each numbered angle. That means that we need to find the measure of angle 3, 4, and 5. Now, what do we know from looking at this picture? We know that they intersected a 90-degree angle, which means that these lines are perpendicular. This box right here means 90. So we're going to start by creating our proof. And we've got our statements and our reasons. Now, this one is going to be fun because we're going to have to apply what we learned in 2.7 when we wrote down all of these wonderful things on page 15A. And you need to make sure that you have all of this written down on page 15A. Now, we start they give us that the measure of angle 4 is equal to 2x minus 5, and the measure of angle 5 is 4x minus 13. That's our given. Then from here, we know that these two lines intersect at a right angle, so if this is 90, that means that the measure of angle 3 is 90 degrees by the definition of perpendicular lines. And we know that they're perpendicular because of that little box right there. Now, if this is 90, that means that this right here is 90, this is 90, and this is 90. These two are congruent because they're vertical angles. These two are 90 because they're linear pairs. Same thing here. Now, if we know that angle 4 plus angle 5 will give us 90 degrees, we can add those together. So we say that the measure of angle 4 plus the measure of angle 5 equals 90. And that's the definition of complementary angles. Complementary means they add up to equal 90. Don't forget that. Now, do we know anything about angle 4 and angle 5? We do. We know that angle 4 is 2x minus 5, and angle 5 is 4x minus 13. Now, from here, I would combine like terms. I'm going to get 6x minus 18 equals 90. I'm going to add, and I get 6x equals 108. And then I divide, and that tells me that x equals 18, because I do know math, because I'm a math teacher. Now process all that, make sure you understand where we got the numbers from. Now, are we done? No, we're not done, because it says not only to find x, because we need that to be able to figure this out, we have to find the measure of all the numbered angles. So that means that we're going to have to plug in x. So we have 2 times 18 minus 5. 2 times 18 is, Blair, 5, not 15. 2 times 18 is 36. 36 minus 5 is 31. Then from there, to find the measure of angle 5, we just do 90 minus 31, which gives us 59 degrees. You could also take 18 and plug it in right here and make sure that it's right. Now, please review this, please study, please be ready for your test tomorrow. Make sure you have your study guide done. Have a great rest of your day.